for said services and whatever that is, and so that also impacts.
And I will say this, I've had chefs, doctors, lawyers, entertainers, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everyday people we work around. When trauma hits you, when you suffer from different challenges in your life, who knows when you will need those services and where you would be if you need recovery support. You can give me 3 homes now, 3 5-bedroom homes, I can fill them up in a day.
And so there are a lot of people in healthcare, again. I don't think everybody in healthcare is just gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't take it. But if I was to ask, even in this audience right now, how many people in this audience has pulled up to the house and like, okay, just let me sit in this car for a little bit. Or you pull it up to the job and you're like, right? Let me sit for just a bit before you go in, okay? And that's not right, wrong, or ugly. That is just you trying to get your mental in order. You know, like somebody making push-ups, jumping jacks, or stretch before they go do an athletic event. This is a muscle too, and you have to get your mental ready. And so we've really seen this, like I said, over 500% increase in that. If you guys have a question, you can go to our comment. You can go to the mic. It's interactive. We're here, but it's us. It's us. How about you?
So with travel now open again, I've hit some facilities and noticed the staffing has increased and the managers have increased their stress level, and they're like running around trying to make sure all the procedures, all the IFUs are being followed, everything is being met with the limited number of FTEs, of the staff that they have in that department. And you can just see it's wearing on them. They don't look the same like I saw them 2 years ago. And it's just the stress, and it's just bringing them down, and it's hurting them.
So what is some technique? How do we, because I'm wrestling with that, as a manager in a hospital, if your team can't get it done because of lack of resources, equipment, the manager takes it personal. Well, I took it personal. You try to get it done yourself, right? But you can't be in all 3 areas at the same time. You can't accommodate the customer's needs and still be a wholesome being when you go home to your family. So I'll say in the car, like, okay, what day is it? Right. Is it Friday already? Because it seems like a continuum. So how do you refill your cup? Let's get to that question after Ms. Green goes into some input.
I just want to say that mental illness is real. It's real in sterile processing. It's always been there. We've just been able to cover it up. And so you have to be aware of your employees, of your peers, and the changes that they emote daily when they come to work. You have to know that Sharon isn't the Sharon that I knew 2 weeks ago. Something's going on. Now, you cannot diagnose my illness, but what you can do is say, Sharon, maybe you need to go talk to somebody. Maybe you need to go to EAP. How do you refill? You cannot refill just talking to your peers. You need some professional help to find out what the root cause is of your problems. And I'm going to say that today it's life. It's the work-life balance that is now a work balance. There is no life. You're working. You're trying to catch up on your bills. You're trying to catch up. And then in sterile processing, we're pushing. Because my caseload went from 300, because we was in COVID, back to 957, like, boom. Because they're running the patients through, and we're pushing. And employees, me, as a manager, some days I have bad days. I come in and it's just off the chain. So I want to say that we have to be willing to see it and to own it, and then to help somebody.
Right.
Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
So, you heard here.
It's another fact. Nurses, female workers, frontline healthcare workers, younger medical staff workers in areas with high infection rate reported more severe degrees of all psychological symptoms. So healthcare workers are highly impacted more than other professions
front line, they didn't have direct patient care. Vicariously, their stress level went up just off the information they knew. It was higher than the people who were actually in the room sometimes with patients just because. And so I found that amazing that vicariously, I guess just like you can have enjoyment vicariously, they actually, the mental health was hit based on the vicariousness of it. So, anyone out here right quick, have you all seen like what Sharon said, the people, like what our friends up there, Jesse and Tina, have you all seen that in your own departments, in your own facilities? Okay. Just checking it out.
You know what's the challenge? Consider firefighters. I know we got some folks who on the team or former or current firefighters. There's a building on fire, and these professionals have to run into the fire. That's the same with healthcare workers. You know, it's national news that there's a pandemic that no one knows the source. We still don't know the true source, but healthcare workers are trained, some should be trained, to run into a burning building. Think about that anxiety. I think it's important to take a step back and look at where we are now versus how long where we come from. Yes, how do you handle that going to work in the midst of a pandemic?
Well, I mean, it's funny when you use the firefighter analogy, because when you're trained to do something and you actually have to do it, sometimes it doesn't click. So, you know, as sterile processors, you know, we're taught the microbiology of it, and we're treating everything as dirty. But when a pandemic hits with something that's unknown completely, it was almost treated as this was the worst case scenario in the world. And with AIDS, and we forgot about all that. All we were focused was on COVID. It was like, okay, was that use on COVID patient? Do we go into the room? They were asking SPE tech to go to the actual rooms and grab the case cards from them. We were like, are you serious? What do we do? We're like, but we're trained to do it. That's what training. Everything is dirty. We don't think about, you know, hey, this was used on an HIV patient, this was used on hepatitis. We didn't care about that because we were trained to have PPEs, so we were prepared for it, and that was what was taught to us. But when a whole situation arrived, running into that fire, it was a hesitation, there was questions, there was doubts, there was like, you know, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And as managers, part of the process was to let the employees know that, hey, this is your protected. This is what you trained to do. This is what you trained your whole life for. You went to school for. This is what you did. But I think the important part of that, for me as a manager, I like to back my employees up. I want them to know that I'm in the trenches with them as well.
Yeah.
So being visible, making sure that they're okay, asking those questions. Hey, how you doing today? How you making out? Are you all right? You know, what's going on in here? Are you overwhelmed? And having that support was really important at that specific time. Because as managers, we're tied up. You know, we have meetings, we're sitting at the desk, we have all kinds of paperwork to do. Now's not the time for this. I have to pour into my employees because this is critical. And that was my approach pretty much.
Yeah. Likewise, when we have our, that was the concern about the knowledge and nonsense. I'll be like, we okay? We okay? You know, and I don't have any more information than they do, but we okay.
Right?
Let's stop the spiral. You don't really know. Like Sharon said, it's real. You don't know what somebody's saying if they're spiraling. You can't always see the spiral.
Exactly.
You know, you can't always see it. I'll be like, hey, we're okay.
And the other part of it is like a lot of new processes will get put in place on how to reprocess, you know, N95 masks, something that we're told one-time use. We're like, why is this okay now? So going through that process with employees to try to make sense.
Yes.
It's like, look, we're in crisis right now. You know, how are we disposing of these masks? Okay, this is the process, but being there as a leader, not just handing that task out and saying, hey, you guys figure it out. No.
What's still rebounding?
Yeah.
We got a question for you. Hold on one moment. Tina, you are in a unique position because your teams are nationwide, in some cases worldwide. How do you navigate the multiple tiers of leadership, the mental stressors,
my organization, I'm very lucky over at Skytron that they're able to, we have a helpline, we have a help center within our organization that they can call in, tap in. We'll have a counselor speak with them, or we can take them someplace or have them go to a location to speak one-on-one with a person. So I'm lucky that I have that background, but you still need to look around and look at your peers, some of your family members, and ask them. And they might say, yes, I'm fine, but in your heart, you probably know there's something else going on. They need help. It's tough to reach out to them, but make sure they get the help that they need.
So, you wanna go ahead? Yeah.
I was just gonna add an additional comment. Sometimes when you're in the trenches, you need a battle buddy. If you're not strong, you can recognize and see other strong people, like Ms. Gringo. She talked about this mental health certification or something she got to help recognize the triggers. We get a lot of information, but being able to recognize it, and sometimes they'll bring the little cart around. You have to do more than feed people. And if you're going to feed them, give them stuff other than physical food, things that can help. Here's the number to peer support. Here's the number to the EAP. I don't know what the stigma is with EAP, but when people are looking for me, they be like, where Kim? Oh, she might be in the chapel, because that's my place. But I don't know what to do, but I got like anointing oil in my locker for you, and I can pray for you real quick, and we can get through our day. But you need a battle buddy. And then you get strong yourself. And sometimes when other people are not feeding you, you have to encourage and feed yourself. Reflection, those times when we're pausing and we're sitting back, and we're like, man, it's been a crazy 2 weeks. And sometimes you can get overwhelmed and you need additional help. But being strong enough to recognize that and not deal with the stigma of why she wanted EAP and people all up in your business. We got to get beyond that and get to the root of things so that you can be better and move on and be an overcomer.
I love that, and that's, yeah. I'm just gonna catch the ball. Yeah, because somewhere we think strong means never having Jamel and the leadership training. You said you were defining quality, doesn't mean without effect. Somewhere we mean strong means like no problems at all. Strong, got to be strong. But actually it takes strength to call. It takes strength to say, hey, I need to go to EAP. I need a break. That's strength. Because in that moment you're saying, you're strong enough to not be worried about what the next man thinks. You're like, this is gonna help me be better for me and for you and for them and for all of them. So yeah, I love that. Another comment.
Take it serious. I show of hands, how many of your organizations that you work on lead have places that you can go and decompress? More than that.
By show of hands, how many people actually know what you need to do when you are in that moment? Like you know what your go-to is to de-stress, to get back to me. Anybody want to share? And as they're coming to the mic to share, what do you all do to, like me, like, oh, I had a day.
I personally, I need to laugh. So I will find my little Sears channel, the comedy channel, and drive home or drive around and just, I need to laugh my butt off. And that will help replenish me and get me back out of that little hole.
All of it. So you all folk replenished last night.
I am, great.
They got some spillover. Y'all need a little bit, just come. They got some spillover.
So I grew up in an environment where I was known to get over it if I'm stressed. But I've learned how to work with a therapist when I'm having a moment. Just make that call, get someone I can release and get things off my chest. And it's very healthy for me when I'm in a high stress moment. But bike riding, activity, creating music or something like that. And what my therapist has taught me is to learn how to communicate that you need time and be consistent in taking your time. You have to. That's the most important piece.
Anyone?
I did want to acknowledge that sometimes you don't know your strength until you're forced to use it, right? You don't know how strong you are. I know this is a little weird, but this pandemic has made us realize the kinks in our armor. So we're asking what resources and tools that we have. And many of us can acknowledge that we have EAP, there is a chapel, but we have put those as knickknacks in the curio cabinet. We know that we have one somewhere, but we don't know where it is. And it's forcing us to really look at who we are, how we engage as individuals with each other, and as Ms. Green Golden says, how we really need to acknowledge who we are as we come in every day. We're so busy past, like, the freeway cars just merging in and out, that we're not acknowledging that Brian's right eye is tearing up every now and then, or Brian stayed a little later at lunch, or he's not sitting at the table with everyone anymore. And those signs have been there for a while. It takes the explosion to happen before we say, yeah, I realize. We should take note and begin to utilize those tools and those everything that we have available at us at the onset, even if it's just touching them as you pass by. It's forcing us to do life. Yeah, not just work. Do life differently. We have to be empathetic, but we also have to be observant and sensitive. If we have EAP, we know that. We have the 800 number up there. But do we even know what EAP is?
Employee assistance program.
That's all we know.
That is.
That's all we know. That's all we know. Has our company or we as managers done a good job to say what EAP really is? Are we saying, yeah, you can call them on your ride home and say, I need the vent right now, or I'm going to drive this car off the lid. You know what? You can do that in EAP. Did y'all know that? No, but they think EAP is you calling and they're going to tell somebody that you're crazy and you have to take time off and see a psychiatrist. So that's okay, but we're not saying what EAP is. EAP will help you get child care. Y'all know that?
Mm-hmm.
EAP will help you pay your power bill if you need real help. But we don't break down what those services really offer, and so maybe we need to pause a bit to be able to say, what support services do we have, so it's easier for people to access what they do have as a support system. So even though you have a kink in your armor, you still can be strong, but you know where your reserves come from.
All right. I love that. I want to hit this. This is just like the show, God. If y'all have a thought, y'all better get in. Don't be over there like sharing ass. I may not. I'm a D. Let's do this. Yes, so for those of you who are watching, that means I have a little bit of a dominant personality. I don't mind. And so sometimes I may go ahead and not realize I have left my team behind when I turn around. So yeah, jump in. Just be like, hey, and I'll say, okay, yeah. I wanted to go over, can we go over maybe some of these identifiers before we do the next comment? So here's the thing, healthcare workers were more likely, I'm gonna put this on the screen so you guys can see it too. I'm gonna read it, but, so healthcare workers were more likely to report that they had increases in emotional exhaustion. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. Just like procrastination, often we wait till it's broke before we fix it. Something's wrong before we go to the doctor. But again, that's more of a reactive approach. So there is emotional exhaustion. It went up 82%. Trouble with sleep. It's not always something's going on, I must need to pray. Yeah, pray, whatever, I pray too. But if you can't, sleep is not designed to be the hardest thing that we do, So we got trouble with sleep like that, physical exhaustion, work-related dread, can't think of nothing. Dread, the word dread there. And so all of those things, you see those numbers of how much they went up. None of that is less than 50%. None of that is less than 50%. So this is the state of the people. The not just in your facility, but in your community, at church, in your community theater group, you know, your homeboys, your homegirls, your golf buddies, all of that. These are the people, these are what these individuals are going through. This is real. This is the stuff that just because you can't see it, it is very present in a lot of conversations, and it has risen. And so over half also reported experiencing the changes in the appetite, headaches, or stomach ache. I got a headache. You know, we all get headaches. For 4, 5, 6, 7 days straight. I got a headache. I don't know where it came from. Your headache didn't never leave. I'm thinking you're getting a new headache every day. No, it's the same headache. You know, your body's being conditioned to just live with headache, to work with headache. And so that's not how the design originally is. Questioning at the career path. Over 500, millions of people have been like, we good. We good. Before the pandemic, how many people you know would be willing to take? How many people who are not like retirement age and on this side of life would be willing to take pay cuts of like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 just for peace? Since the pandemic, you have people like, well, we pay you for a job, you better be here, and they like, that shouldn't be us, but my pinky hurt, and so I have to take this time. You know, and so they're questioning career paths, compassion fatigue, where you just feel it's no break everywhere you look, somebody, you know.
The world is different.
Yeah, it's different, and all of these things weigh on you, and it's heavy. Except, you just step in front of the people. This is all school right here, y'all. Okay.
And it's rough. We've heard Sharon, on some of our teams out there, the headaches.
The headache?
You wake up with a headache, you can't shake it, you know, and it's sometimes 3 days, 5 days, and you're thinking, let me take an aspirin or ibuprofen, and that's work related. But that's a true to life symptom. I've known people who have called in, what's going on with you? I can't shake this headache.
Or migraine.
Or migraine.
Migraine.
Severe intensive migraines that can be stress related, can't be deliberating. I mean, you have to be in a closed, dark room, no sound, no light, no smell, because, and it's stress related. It's so painful. I've had them. You know, I was on special medication for these migraines because I was in a different job, working with my ex-in-laws, and the stress was so hard. I woke up days, 5 days out of the week with a migraine.
Wow.
And I mean, those stats, I mean, pretty much, that's the nature of healthcare. I mean, people don't understand that a lot of people want to get into healthcare and really don't know what they're getting into, like take sterile processing. Nobody knows what sterile processing is. I'm in a unique position in my facility where we take internal candidates from our hospital and train them to work in sterile processing. But as we interview these individuals, one of the first questions is, what do you know about sterile processing? And all they say, oh, well, we looked it up in YouTube, y'all sterilize instruments. Not knowing what we really do is like, you know you're gonna be exposed to blood, urine, body parts at times, depending on the specialty. All these statistics bring into healthcare. The emotional part, if you're an emotional individual as myself, sometimes you walk by a room and you see a patient getting worked on and it doesn't turn out well, it weighs down. It's like, oh, okay. And you take that hit because that's where the sleep goes. And I just see a body, like somebody passed away, or I just see loved ones in a children's center just lose their child. You start relating to yourself. It's like, oh man, what could I have done to make a difference?
Mental stresses are not found in the job description, right? You don't see a job description that has levels. This job might cause you this percentage of stress because of environmental stresses, work-related, etc. Many people would have possibly made different career choices if they knew it was attached beyond paycheck or beyond the clinical attitude.
And to be clear, like the answer isn't to shut that off. We need that compassion. That drives healthcare workers. Healthcare workers want to help people. Like healthcare worker is a service. It's a serve type of heart. Healthcare is healthcare. So we need the compassion, but we also need the identifiers of when I am now operating strictly out of compassion fatigue. And And that's why we're really talking about refilling the healthcare workers' cup. Like, yeah, zip code is a major thing. Sometimes it's like, you don't refill anything before it's empty, but that's not true in all zip codes. We don't have to wait to be on E. You don't have to wait to put gas in your car until the light comes on. There was a gentleman who was a mechanic one day told me, he said, Sharon, those are idiot lights. And I was like, what? He said, they're idiot lights, because only idiots wait for them to turn on, like my oil light or the thing. And I was like, but you know what? I didn't even get offended, because he didn't tell me something. He didn't mean to, he was laughing. He's like, those are idiot lights. But yeah, there's something, well, I don't know why we do that. That's the human behavior component. But you don't have to wait for it to be empty. You don't have to wait until you're ready to cuss out your boss and leave it off. Which, look, hold your form. Help you keep what you work for. Hold your form. Help you keep what you work for. You don't have to wait until they on your last nerve and you don't know what to do. There are resources for when that happens, but we don't have to wait to get to that point. I don't care if you just had like 6 sips. If you want your cup to be poured up 6 sips back in there, you don't have to wait. Yeah, I just want to show that.
When people get into healthcare, it's one of those careers that you build that love for. And it's like you always want to do more as a healthcare worker, especially if you love the field you're in. It's like you're always trying to find out how can you do more and more and more and more, and you forget about self. And that's the important part of it, is that when you're doing all that, you have to know when to unplug from all that and be able to say, this is my time. How do I unplug from all this? But it's always in your mind. It's always going to be there. You're never going to forget it. But you got to figure out, how do I get back from that exhaustion? Do I go get a massage? Do I get a pedicure? Do I go golfing? Do I play video games? Do I listen to loud music? All that. You have to go in and say, okay, I did my job. I did all that I could possibly do, and now it's me. And that's important.
It is important. We're going to take a question from the audience, but then I'll be curious to know what you taught in your zip code about how to manage stress, or something else.
Oh, that'd be good. That's a good question. But before you do anything, let me see that. Yes. This is live, y'all, and I love the fact that we're live. Yeah, live. This is live. I'm on this. How you doing? Let's go.
Well, mine is not a question. Mine is, as I'm listening to people talk about what do we do, I have an example of what you do because I lived it. In 2021, in January, 2 days before inauguration, my mother and I both got hit with COVID. On January 20th, 2021, I had to rush my mother to the hospital. My mother was in the hospital on January 27th, birthday, that I had to spend alone because I had COVID. And on January 27th, I got a phone call from my mother's doctors saying that my mother was dying.
Oh my gosh. On
January 31st, 2021, my mother died. So that was a very difficult time for me. I was supposed to be starting an assignment and could not because of all of these events. On top of it, I also have another vocation. I am also a pastor. So at that time, I had to make up in my mind what I needed to do with me, because my mother and I were very, very close. So that was a huge loss for me. I made up in my mind the entire month of February. I did nothing. I did not work. I did not teach. I did not preach. I was a grieving daughter. However that was going to look for me, that's what I was. I was a grieving daughter. Many times I would call people that I knew were close to me, that I knew loved me, that I knew could get a prayer through, because prayer is very important to me. But there were moments when I couldn't pray because I was hurt. I was hurt. I prayed for many people and they made it through. I prayed for my own mother and she did not live. So I felt some kind of way, just being honest. Even with God, I felt some kind of way. But because of my faith structure, I know I am convinced God doesn't make mistakes. All things work together for good. So now, Nancy, how do you deal with you so that you can continue being what you have been called to be, both as a pastor and as someone who loves central service technology? How do I continue to lead and be that person that other people can pull on when right now you just don't have it? So I stopped everything for a solid month and just allowed myself to grieve. Many times I would call people on the phone and just cry because there was nothing else I could say or do. Just cry, and they would let me cry. I am still healing, but when I went back to work in March, I was healthy. I was healthy enough to continue moving forward. But had I not made up in my mind, stop everything right now. Don't go another further. Just stop and do what you need to do for you. I might not be here right now, and I might not even be able to stand here and say this without falling apart. I missed my mother, but because I allowed myself to have good grief, I'm okay.
That's good. That's good.
That's what we call a mental fast, and sometimes we have to do that. You have to just unplug from everything. It's like some people cope with occupying themselves and other duties, but sometimes you just have to be still.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say about rebuilding and store processing. How do you do it? You know, as the supervisor, sometimes you have to come in with a plan. The plan that I'm saying what I have every day, 3 shifts. I don't care unless it's an emergency. We take the time in our huddle to talk about how is your day. This is what's available. What are we doing today? There is no rush so important in sterile processing that we can't realize we are people too. And I have to allow people to pour into me as much as I pour into them. I am vulnerable, transparent with my team, and I let them know this is what's there. Jamel said EAP. I talk about EAP because I had a person that said they couldn't pay their rent. I'm like, well, they got money. Let's apply for the money. They're not gonna bring it to you, but let's apply for the money. We happen at my hospital, I happen to work for the Adventists, and we've been talking about these things for years. Well, finally, we have the Serenity Lounge that has those chairs in it that you can sit in and go to sleep. It's massaging. I tell my team, go sit in the chair. Now, don't go for a whole day. Go sit in the chair 15 minutes and let it go. I allow them, but as supervisors, you have to allow them. Sometimes we don't want to let them go. Go sit in the chair, relax yourself. They have teas, they have coffees. The music is so calming. One person came in early to say he was late, he was tired because he was sleeping in the sprint chair. So I told him, put your alarm on so you can get out of the chair and come to work. But the bottom line is we have to pour into our team. I looked at my person, I talked about it in the meeting. She was different. This is a person that knew everything. And all of a sudden when you ask her, do we have 2 trains? I don't know. Do we have 6 cranes? I don't know. Yes, you do. I don't know. I said, something's wrong. Because she can't remember nothing. And I sent her for help. I don't have you guys coming to my department with a headache. Why you got a headache? Well, what's wrong today? Sit down, let's try to work this out. Because you can ill afford to allow your team members to be ill, whether it's physical or mental, in your department. And I'm just talking real fast. I'm dealing with one today I've been sharing with people that is out on a mental health basis. They now want to be ready to send him back Tuesday. He can't come back to me Tuesday. I'm going to need to know that he's mentally okay. So see, Tuesday when he's talking to me, I'm sending him back to psychologists, psychiatrists to find out what is wrong because he completely shut it down. And we have to be real and understand that if you do not watch and see these things, people will blow up on you. If they not just shoot the doctors and nurses in the hospital, we're not safe. A few years ago, they shot a sterile processing person came in and shot up in the back. So we're not safe. So if you're sitting there and with tunnel vision, acting like everything's okay in your department, I'm telling you, set yourself up for failure. Pay attention. Pay attention.
Hey,
Yes.
that's all. Okay, so y'all know the live show we have commercial breaks. So we're gonna do a commercial break, but we do commercial. We're gonna do commercial. All right. So we'd like to take this time to thank ScrubBall for having us here.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, if you guys want to we do see the leadership, my leadership, and we do something called community. And that is you can buy the bear, get the bear for yourself. It's a great bear. You were here, be in the room, you're in the room. That's your visual reminder. But also community means you can get it for somebody else. Or maybe you don't want to get the two bears, but you know what, I'm gonna give up my Wendy snack and put this on the community for somebody else to get a bear. So you get like a third of a bear. Because you guys know ScrubBall is a nonprofit. Like I said, they took in an elderly center. They're doing the things with the children this year. So yeah, so thank you to ScrubBall for having us. Thank you to SIPS Consults, CS Assist. This has been that commercial break.
Yeah, a lot of special sponsors, you know.
Crossbank.
Belly Bed.
Belly Bed, yes.
You know, ScrubBall. So much is going on year round. You know, it's not just your two-step. I know some of y'all does that thing called Water to the Septic Party. I know that's a lot of it comes out twice a year. ScrubBall and New Year's. That's all you're gonna get. But support our vendors. We have so many authors in the house. You know, show of hands, who does not have the Bible? Who does not have it? Right? We have some giveaways. Who does not have Hold Your Farm? Well, you still don't Hold Your Farm? I'm not giving this away. I'm not giving that away. And CFPD, can we have a giveaway? Right?
Definitely with the Wild Book, you have 3 other options. So make sure that book gets 3 signatures.
So normally there's a criteria for giveaway, right?
You know what? Yeah, there's gonna be some criteria. Here's the criteria. We are officially out. The commercial is officially over, but it is now still part of the program because this is live. This is how we do it. You know what? I think questions. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions about refilling your cup? Not a comment. Any question? Anyone have a question on how do I help my team, or this is what, you know, I did this, I didn't know what to do, how would you, anything for our panel? Any questions?
Think about that while we
I think somebody has one, but yeah, I don't want to point them out. I don't want to be dead at them, but I think somebody has it.
we have a
That's exactly, I was like, there's a question. Over here in the red area.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
What y'all are doing? Mental health. I'm a big advocate for mental health. I have a 20-year-old daughter who actually was a part of gun violence. We was actually outside. She was shot in her back, and we was in the hospital for almost 30 days. So I'm a touchy-feely person. I'm a hugger. Pretty much have the same energy all the time, and even within my department, I always ask, "Are you okay? You know, how was your day?" I'm personal. I'm very personal. I can remember what you went through a year ago, and I still ask and see how you've been going through it, and if everything is all right. So I tried to get my daughter to go through therapy. She didn't want to go through therapy because, you know, you pretty much grew up, you know, you just deal with it. You don't see a therapist. To this day, you know, she won't see a therapist. I tried to get her to see a therapist once, but she went one day, she was going to talk to me. And that's how she felt. But maybe because of the way I grew up, maybe that's something I still into her. So I'm definitely trying to figure out how to get her to continue to try to see a therapist, because maybe the information I give her, she might receive it because of her mother, but she might need more of something different being from someone else that from the outside looking in that she can receive. So within our department, I know I'm personal and I ask these questions with them, but if I'm not able to give them exactly what they need, how do I lead them or guide them to a place, a space, or, you know, somewhere where they can actually get this information, even though they act as if everything is okay. And sometimes when I'm under pressure, I pretty much go and see how everybody else is doing. You know, you okay? So it's like, whatever you going through, I just receive all of your energy. And I put mine to the side. Because you really never know when something wrong with you, you know. Because my energy remains the same. But I know they can be hindering to me. So I might be one of those people that might explode later. Because I don't wear the weight of the world on my shoulder. So that's something I'm trying to learn. It's like, you know, I guess I ask for advice. How do I handle this? So if I don't know how to handle it, how can I give that information to someone else?
It's good. That's a great question.
Really
good.
Yeah, so.
Really good.
What I would say, I'm not a therapy expert. In fact, I'm newly discovering therapy, so I promote it because it's helping me. Unfortunately, it's hard to force an adult to go to therapy if it's something they don't really truly want. What I would recommend is look for the things that bring her joy, maybe journaling, walking, and maybe put emphasis on giving her her time and teaching her how to use her time or take her time. And in the healthcare setting, just recognizing, if you know you're taking your staff, you know, hey, go and get a cup of coffee, take some time out, take over this trade. The little things like that will allow, if they don't want to work, if they don't want to stop what they're doing, you can be forceful in a nice way and give them that time back, and it'll be appreciated later.
Very nice. Hey, we gotta hold your phone for you, because you hold your phone.
All right. All right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm waiting on that as well. It's, as mentioned, it's hard to force somebody to get therapy. But when we think of therapy, we always think of like psychologists or you know, having to speak to somebody else so that they can tell you that something's wrong with you. There's different forms of therapy. Sometimes the way to get, I'll tell you right now, for me to get therapy, my ego doesn't allow it. Like I feel that for me, it's like for you to tell me you're gonna diagnose me, and I went through it, you know. But there's different forms, you know. Sometimes the way to get therapy for yourself is to engage with someone else for a different form of therapy, whether it be through massage, through gardening, through music, you know, just an outing of a cup of coffee. That connection is therapeutic. You know, being around family members, friends. The comedy show last night is therapeutic. It's in different forms. So just suggesting, you know, with the EAP program, a lot like mentioned, we don't know what's in that program. We just, in our head, think that we gotta go to an outside source. We talk about our problem, and maybe from the hood, I'm from Camden, New Jersey, to talk to some stranger about my problem. I'm not high. You don't even know my business. So my therapy is my family, TV. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I get in the kitchen and whip up a new recipe. Let's try cooking. Even if we're gonna burn the kitchen down. Let's have a time to do it right here. That's all part of therapy. I'm a mixologist, so I like making drinks. You know, so I invite people over. Hey, let's have some drinks. I'm gonna get all of you drunk. It's therapeutic for me.
This is not, although it feels like we live at our job, we don't. We just work long hours there, but that ain't, you know, this is real.
And actually, I want to add to that too. Sometimes your job is your therapy. Sometimes life, you know, home life is like, it's crazy. It's like, you know, some children, you know, are actually, and I hate to say, some of our children are leeches to us. And they feed off of us. And it's like, oh, you got another problem? This is your eighth girlfriend this week. Y'all got into a fist fight. I'm gonna go to overtime today. Sometimes you're around people that your family is built into your own work. So those people you're with them more time than you're at home. So sometimes listening to another person's problem, shoot, you got it worse than me. Let me know a little bit more about what's going on. Yeah. That's therapy for you. You know, it's both ways. We can't just talk about our work life stresses, life stresses.
Yeah.
You go to work and get away from it.
So Jesse just said, it was overtime today. I saw his wife take a sip of coffee. That's why. Oh, we have a comment from the audience.
Before we leave that comment, I want to say this, again, for disclaimer for legal purposes, we are not licensed psychiatrists, psychologists, not any of that. I did want to share, like, from my experience. Jesse said there are different types of therapy, different types of cars. Sometimes we think of something a certain way, and our association with it becomes its definition. But it's not its actual definition. Sometimes it's incomplete. And so we have the right, the permission, and also the responsibility to grow and be more. So think of therapy as not just me sitting on a couch. I worked for a pharmacologist. He was a psychiatrist. I didn't even know what that was, but he would see patients. And I was like, but you don't have a couch. And he's like, no, I don't have a couch. I'm a pharmacologist. I don't want the problems. I just want to know how your medications interact with one another. And I mean, he had a straight chair in his office. And when a certain time went off, he's like, okay, thanks. He's like, tell me about your wife. He didn't want any of that because it wasn't his job, right? But I didn't know that. I assumed our psychiatrist was a couch and you go in there and this and that. But no, there's more. There is massage therapy. There are other. I bet there's water therapy out there. There's so many other things that's therapy, and it's not just let me go tell somebody all my business. So that's one thing I would like to share. Like, you can look at all the different types of therapy, but the best way will be look at them with the person you're concerned with. That's one thing I wanted to share with you. Also, to remove the stigma of it, everybody hasn't gone through what that person's gone through. Even though there are a lot of shootings, and this is a gun violence, America seems to be a visual example of gun violence, still, in this room, everybody hasn't been shot in the back. So we can't handle it like it's everything else. That was an exceptional occurrence. And so we're gonna have to do an exceptional approach. That was an exception to the rule. And so now we have to come out. We can't only do the rule when something is an exception to the rule. You know, so it takes the stigma out and it doesn't make it as personal about the person. And the last thing I would say is, it's knowledge and nonsense. But your daughter got shot in the back. She was a victim of gun violence. People like to help people. You may want to go and have massage or water or food therapy, and you can ask her, would you go with me? So I don't have to go alone. Okay, so it may not be the way, like, well, I want her to go by herself, but she's in it, and she's listening, and she's being there. Just the same way you said, you'll recognize when you go start doing it to people, and kudos on you for recognizing. I sure I'm checking on a lot of people today. Is it something I don't want to check on over here? You know, like, that's kudos on you recognizing that self-awareness. So it may not be exactly how you want it, but it's happening. And yeah,
And
I just wanted to share those.
kind of to add to that too, is that you have to remember now, again, none of us are therapists or anything like that, but therapy, all it is a disconnect, it's a distraction from what is wearing you down. Bartenders are therapists. They sit there and they engage in your conversations, even though their service is to serve you drink. At the end of the day, if you look at the conversations when you go to a bar or anything like that, or anywhere, even to a Starbucks, a barista, that engagement in conversation, that small chit chat, that distracts you, puts you away. When you go for a massage, your massage therapist might talk to you while he's massaging you. Is to distract your mind so that you can relax, so that you're not so tense. I remember when I first went, I don't like my feet touched. So when I went for a massage, they were like, complete or incomplete? And they were like, I'm like, what are you talking about? You take your clothes off, take all your clothes off. I'm not gonna take all my clothes off, but I kept my socks on because I was like, that's a sign, don't touch my feet. And the massage and the talk eased me so much that I almost fell asleep. And the massage therapist wound up touching my feet. And I wind up kicking her across the room like a mule when I felt so bad. I felt so bad because my feet, I had to sneak up on my own feet to kind of watch her. Like this. but that distraction is what you need in your therapy. It's the comfort of disconnect. And it happens with small chit chat. And that's all the magic of therapy, whatever it may be, even for a swimming lesson. That talk, that fear that if you don't know how to swim or drowning, as the instructor speaks to you, pour yourself into that instructor, listen to the directions, and that allows that therapy to say, you know something, I can do this, and then I'm gonna be okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, now, just come on, another thing. My one pushback on this, not pushback, and everything he said, and there are some therapists though, they don't distract you. You good right there. They don't really distract. There's gonna be some focused things to work you through some certain processes. But there are all kinds, so get to know the different kinds of therapists. Refilling the cup. Yes, sir.
I got a chance to do some group work, community work around adverse childhood experiences. And one thing that we did, one practice that we started to implement was a celebration circle. So it's a story circle where everybody goes around the room or around the circle and they have a couple of minutes just to talk about what they went through, right? So what was your adversity, what happened? But more than that was how did you get through it, right? And basically then we find phrases of resilience that we all repeat to each other or say as a group. And basically what that does is builds new neural nets to heal from the things that we've been through. A lot of times, many people will not ever see a therapist. However, we need to realize that our conversations with each other, like I said, it means a whole lot. We're building these neural nets for resilience. When we talk about our wins, though, right? When we talk about the wins, how did we get through it? But when you continue just to talk about the problem, of course, that's what you say, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing that we give them is taking 5 deep breaths. Take a minute to take 5 deep breaths. Reset your biological response system. You know, so that's what that's about, right? So and 5 deep breaths, even people that come into into decon or whatever in the morning, they're talking, well, I'm stressed on something. Go take 5 deep breaths. It's hard for me to meditate. It's hard for me to do that. Practice just doing the 5 deep breaths first. We get that, we can start meditating and things later. But meditation is that's my safe place. And then also arts. Arts. Anything that you do for 20 minutes, you're engaging in it, whether it's drumming or playing the piano or singing, humming. That's another way that you're building these resilience points within yourself. So those are a few tools that I use.
That's actually
Awesome.
Sometimes people can't do one-on-one with a therapist because you don't know what I'm going through, you don't know how I feel, how can you tell me what's wrong with me? A group setting could be more beneficial because other people are talking about what they've been through and you can pick up nuggets. Okay, they've been through that, I haven't, they survived, I can go through it too. And just reach out to them for help. So groups sometimes might be better.
That group setting is important sometimes, because again, it's like you start listening to the problems as they escalate, you go, why is this as bad as that? You always have to look at the positive and the negative. Even a homeless individual who has hit rock bottom can always find a positive thing. I'm alive, I'm breathing, you know. I did get that next meal. That person gave me a $5 bill. Whatever that is, you always have to look at that positive, even in the most negative situation. So in group therapies, it's like problems escalate, you know, like this one, I can't speak of my personal view, but it's like, if you think of an AA meeting, it's like, okay, I'm an alcoholic, I like drinking beer all day, but you might hear somebody, and I know somebody, well, in order for me to get drunk, I drink straight rubbing alcohol. Damn, all that bad. So it's that therapeutic consensus. It's like, wow, maybe I'm not that bad, So
That's funny. I want to talk about that offline. Yes, that's.
For our next question, I'm gonna do a giveaway. On first presenter? Today's Saturday. Thursday was a few days. Who's our very first presenter?
Sherry.
This is yours.
Oh, I was getting a little.
You get that?
We're refilling the cup. Kudos, I wanted, yes, we've covered a lot, so we're refilling the cup. Did you want to do another giveaway or?
No,
So we all recognize that it happens, right? And even though we talked about it for about like 20, 25 minutes, you can feel, the group said, you can feel the stigma. You can feel like, I feel how I loosen up. I love this about knowledge and nonsense. Because it's loosened up now. It's like, yeah, and this, and we get it now. So I didn't really say a lot, but y'all heard everything I just said right there, right? It made sense. It made sense. It made sense. It made sense.
I do want to give another giveaway for our panel. Where you from? St. Louis, Missouri. Who's from St. Louis, Missouri now? From Missouri? From St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, boy, home of G. My aunt was the famous Frankie Freeman. She has a statue in St. Louis. I am from the Freemans of St. Louis.
Wow.
All right. You talking about St. Louis?
Google me. Her hospital was right next to my alma mater, Sumner. Yeah. What about that?
All right, so we give it something.
Well, we have a beer that I'm sure Mr. Greenberg will make me get. You want your beer now?
Not that
beer. This is
we can bring a barrier from outside.
this is a beer. Look at the D coming out again.
This is why you should like and follow knowledge and nonsense so real. This is Neil Wayne all the time. All the time, all the work with Neil Wayne.
Same here.
Yeah. Yes, it's knowledge and nonsense. Like, what? No, yes, maybe, okay.
No.
Yes. All right.
I was just gonna add real quick. Work with your departments within your hospital. This is, I wasn't sure your name. April. April is, said she was a new, supervisor. So you need a battle buddy. 2 supervisors strong over there, make great presentations, networking and connecting. So when you're in the trenches, you connect, hey, got this going on. So you need a battle buddy. And you can bring in the peer support, the chaplain. Those people can come to your department. You don't have to do all the work. Use all the resources that you have available. It's only one of you, but that whole department can come to your department and not make anybody feel left out, but you do it as a group. This is peer support month. We're going to acknowledge our peers within our department. What can the chaplain do for you? In the operating room, they're very good at doing it. They know when the staff is straight. You're going to eat, they're going to bring food, they're going to bring peer support. The chaplain is coming to the morning. But we're like, why the chaplain here? Everybody's stressed out because they already know. So use those resources that are available to you. And to take away the stigma, also work with your quality department. In your hospital, you have a quality department. They're big on high reliable teams. In order to be high and reliable, you got to be present, you got to reflect, you got to be mindful. The words we use, reflection. That's saying therapeutic right here. I reflect, I write in my journal. I take a minute, I look back on it. Being mindful, being present, so we can change the stigma terms and the trigger words to more words where people will be brought in more. And it's just not as, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's like calling people up and calling.
So yes, use your peer support, the chaplain, the chapel. They are extensions of you. They want your departments and people to be okay and successful. And if you're not getting what you need, talk to your senior leadership. Yes, SPD, we can use the treat captain to come through here. The chaplain, when he leave the OR, then he come through SPD. Our staff need to be replenished and be built up too. It's only one of you. And then make sure you're getting what you need from stronger people that have done it and paved the way and know how to get through those difficult moments. I don't even know them, but I was like, wow, powerful speakers gave plenty of examples
I'm like, man, I'm gonna network with them on intention. I get stuff. I wanna know, my question, next question would be, how do you hold your form in the heat of the moment? When the pressure is on, like Jesse, I like how Jesse keeps it real, because it be trenches. People be all up in your face, the table is, everybody's at the table, the conversation is heated, but how do you hold your form and still get your point across, get your needs met for your department and things of that sort, so you don't have a lot of clout, or you gotta work with all these services, but you ain't nobody's boss, but you still have to be an influencer and improve the process and get what you need. And folks gotta behave in order to do that, so.
You start out with 5 breaths. Maybe 8 to 10 and, refocus.
I guess before the expert on hold your form speaks on it, I'm gonna speak on how I hold my form. I don't hold my form. Part of who I am is, as you said, I keep it real. This is the raw form of who I am. You're not gonna know if you're gonna get the compassionate me or you're gonna get the stern me. It's gonna be no. I struggled in my career because I'm loud, I'm partially deaf, so I speak loud. I'm 285 pounds, Puerto Rican from Camden, New Jersey. So it's hard for me to hold emotions. Even if I speak, you hear cracking, because my passion is strong. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. There is no gray area for me. We're gonna do this the right way, or we're gonna do it the wrong way. If you want me to do it the wrong way, you got the wrong person. So when I tried to get into leadership, when I tried to get my emotions in check, it just wasn't working. All that stuff that they teach you and they want you to do just wasn't working for me. So I had to find my place. It took me a long time to go into LinkedIn for that platform, because I was like, I'm too raw and I'm cut for that. LinkedIn's not gonna sell what I have to sell. I took my chance, and that's where I found my call. Somebody saw me on LinkedIn and was like, I want what you're selling. Part of holding your form is holding true to who you are. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't manipulate it to conform to individuals, because when you do that, you lose a part of it. And I was like, I will never, and I'm not gonna say sell out, I'm never gonna sell out who I am.
But Jesse, would you agree that there are times when you professionally, even though you're strong, you have to hold your form?
No.
And you have to see that gray area,
No.
and you can get there.
No, I don't. You know why? Because in what's that profession look like for you? You know what I mean? It's part of what I do and what I say with what I sell as far as with my presentations is I want to deal with the real. I don't want to deal with what it looks like. I don't want to deal with how it's supposed to look like, because that's not the reality we live in. The reality we live in is that regardless of rules and regulations, when you learn that you have to drive 55 miles an hour and you hit that highway for the first time, who's driving 55? You got to learn to adapt to 75, 85, 95, 100 miles an hour.
A key word adapt.
Let me do this.
There you go. Okay.
All right, Jesse's saying no, he doesn't hold his form. But Jesse's also saying that he did hold his form. So Jesse is saying, come on, Jesse. Jesse's saying 2 different things. Okay? Jesse's saying, no, I don't hold my form. But the way it's saying, you also said, but I stayed true to me. So then whose form you hold?
True to me.
That's holding your form. Sometimes we think holding our form is holding somebody else's form. The very front of this book says, be you. So that's the first step in holding your form. You have to be you. Most of the time when people lose their form and let it go, it's because they was trying to hold somebody else's form to start with. You have to be you. Self-awareness is key. This is emotional intelligence in its simplest form. Self-awareness. After self-awareness, others' awareness. Read the room, other people. You don't have, sometimes we have an expectation in how we think or how we do it. It's how everybody else thinks and how they do it. And when they don't do it according to our form, because they hold their form, now it's a thing. No, it's not a thing. You be aware of you, and then you can start being aware of others. You know? But the first part of holding your form is knowing who you are. In order to hold your form, you have to know your form. Now, if you're somewhere somebody is talking about you or disrespecting you, and you've been holding something in, you haven't been holding your form, you've been holding something in. That's not holding your form. Holding your form is responding instead of reacting. People tell me all the time, and I love it, keep doing it, because it means that you're being intentional about growing. They'll be like, I held my form, you'll be proud of me, and they just tell me the story, and I smile, because I may be proud of them, but you know what? You'll be proud of them. Me being proud of you is not going to be based on what you did, because then you're going to be performance-based even more. I'm just going to be proud of you because you do, and if you can be you, fully be you, and not be afraid to grow, just be you. Always be authentic wherever you are, Even the day has different stages in it. Just be you first, know your form, and then respond instead of reacting. Because if we're always reacting and we are doing whatever based on everything else outside, then you still don't know you. You just know how you operate. You've learned to survive. That's a traumatized response. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's knowledge nonsense, not how you form. So if someone is talking crazy to you at work, what you believe is crazy, one of the things I always share, I don't know how I got on me, y'all, but this is knowledge nonsense. I always share, I've learned to share is AEB. As evidenced by. Well, he's talking to me crazy, and I'm not going to have it. I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to let him talk to me crazy. It's a whole dialogue and a problem, a solution, and an action plan that one person has come up with in their head because he's talking to me crazy, as evidenced by what? Well, I said what was going on, and he asked me twice. That's a clarifying question. What you mad for?
Great advice. Even Sharon Dawn, one of our presenters yesterday, said you are the gift.
Yeah.
Right? So understanding that space, you already bring something pleasant to the table. So hold your form in your truest form. That's great advice.
And have a conversation before we. Let's try to have a conversation before we get to. I'm holding my form. I was holding my form. They said they didn't do something. And you didn't respond in the way you thought that they were coming toward you. So I'm proud that I have my form. But if it's somebody you work with, you've been at this job 6 months, a year, what did you try? What method of reconciliation, of communication, what did you implement prior to, I am about to tell you? You want to smoke? Oh, I'm going to give you the smoke. What method did you try before we got there? Like, in this process, before we got to, there's no way we can do these trades, or I'm not doing this, before we got to what we ain't going to do. What did we do? What did we try? What did we try? Zip code is a real thing. And your zip code defines what you define as reality and how you think everybody acts, because that's how you came up. But how many zip codes are in this nation alone?
Come on.
And that helps you not take everything personal. I went to New York and I was like, yes, ma'am. And they were like, some of them looked at me crazy. Some of them went in the room and talked about me bad in the break room. She said, ma'am, to me one more time. And I'm going to keep saying ma'am because where I was raised in my zip code, I was groomed, you say ma'am, you say sir. And so now, one of them may be like, I'm trying to hold my form, but if she called me ma'am one more time, but I'm going to call you ma'am, you haven't even let me know ma'am is something that's offensive to you. You had problem, solution, and action plan in your own mind. And I just know I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? Thank you, yes ma'am. And you like, that's it? And I'm just like, what just happened?
Based on your zip code.
Based on zip code.
Because it's even when we moved to the South, right, and everyone waved driving by, like, what the hell are they waving at? Oh, you man? Based on your zip code.
Yeah.
I'm like, stranger danger. Everyone's waving. So when you call it in, it was based on my zip code, so I understand.
Yeah, well, I was raised, people spoke to you whether you knew them or not. Hey, just hey. I did that in New York. I went up there to train. what's going on? And they were just like, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening, but it's zip code.
It's a real thing.
So that's what I mean when I say hold your phone. I know who you are, but just hold on.
So maybe I was confusing form with being reactive, or I
No,
didn't
you
have
is.
a full understanding of.
If you know you, then you don't have to just be reactive, but it's self-awareness first, and then it's awareness of others. So when you know you, so you know your triggers or whatever. A lot of people are like, well, that's my trigger, and they stop. No, if you know your trigger, you can remove the firing pin. You don't have to stay triggered.
Right, nice.
You don't have to stay triggered. This is not my speaking thing, but that's mental health too. This is mental health. And this is what we carry. A lot of people stop it. I know my triggers. That would be like me saying, you know I'm a D, so you gotta deal with my D'ness. No, I know I'm a D. I need to adjust.
You have to deal with it.
The world is full of a lot of people. So if you know your triggers, kudos. Now remove the firing pin.
You deal with it.
You gotta just go off shooting on everything. What the hell?
Well said.
I'm
Well
sorry, what a panel.
No,
Hey.
we have a question from the audience. Let's re-engage.
Okay, y'all good?
Great.
I just wanted to backtrack, just touch base with April was asking about. Being from Camden, New Jersey, also 28 years old, we got the stigma of seeing a therapist makes you crazy. But I'm an advocate for it. I was able to get my dad to go to therapy. He's been in the streets all his life, so I was able to get him to go to therapy. But what I would recommend, just being a millennial, is I know October I lost my cousin to suicide. December 2019, I got fired from my job. So what I did was I had to take a trip. I took a trip to Puerto Rico, and I went with my little sister. I was chaperoning basically, but it was something that I realized that I do when even now, even coming here, it's therapeutic. It's something that it brings me peace. I'm big on signs, and it was confirmation. Even coming here, it was confirmation. Talking, making some of the connections, and it's like it took so much weight off of me just being here. So I'm sorry for your daughter. Does she like to travel? You know, is she interested in working out? Audiobooks? If she don't like reading, just different things like that. And that's, I would just recommend that.
Good advice.
Awesome.
Telling you, be in the room, knowledge and nonsense, be in the room. Okay, so this next question was, what could it look like? And I had it on the screen, but we actually just went through that. That's the conversation, yeah. Yeah, we didn't hit it all. Well, that's from the National Library of Medicine. So what we're talking about, this is the prevailing thing that's popping off. This is a prevailing thing that's being addressed in healthcare right now. This is what popping off. This is where people are living right now. All people. It does not discriminate, and so we have to be sure that we are filling our cup so that we can also refill the cups of other people.
We gotta recognize the
Yeah,
signs
got it right now.
and pay attention.
So,
You know what I just thought about?
Yeah.
What I just thought about Dominique, and it could be a trend. How he started off, he said, "I'm a millennial." I was laughing inside. I so wanted someone else to say, "I'm Generation X." I'm a baby boomer, but you just age yourself. You're possibly the youngest, after me, the youngest guy. Yeah. That's right. But you have a village. You all have a village. You know,
Yes.
If you think about healthcare, there's so many of us, right? And it's not just nurses and SPD. It's so many frontline, behind the frontline workers that are experiencing the same thing that we're talking about here. So
We're talking
reach
about.
out.
Hey, listen, this is one of the benefits to being in the room. Guys, synergy and connections. A lot of times people go to conferences, it's exciting, and you're excited to see them at the next conference. We're going to be excited to see you at the next ScrubBall, but we're going to be excited to also talk to you next week. Connect, get on LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn, okay? Get on LinkedIn.
What are y'all on LinkedIn? What is it?
Oh, you can go to Knowledge and Nonsense on LinkedIn. My name is Sharon Combs. He's LaWayne Perkins. Get on LinkedIn. There's synergy in this room, and a lot of times, even with mental health, Or how would we feel ourselves at work or whatever? A lot of times people think you're going through something on your own, and the isolation allows it to grow more. If you're the only person weighing in on your situation all the time, you don't get the same answer. That's science. That's science. How you feel about something determines your actions. Your actions determine your results. Your results are gonna fuel your beliefs, but because you already believe that, that's gonna be how you feel about it, and that's gonna influence your action. It's a cycle. And so when you get in the room with other people and you really get to connect and get other people's experiences, then that's sometimes you can borrow their beliefs. And what that looks like is when people work out, and you're like, this hurts. Man, this is crazy. You ain't supposed to hurt like this. But you borrow that trainer's belief, or your financial person's belief, or your tax person's belief. You borrow their beliefs, and you let their beliefs do your actions just for a second until you get those first and second sets of results. And that's how you grow. That's how you grow.
So before we do our last giveaways from our panel, any final takeaways we want to engage?
I think everything has been said and expressed. I don't have anything right now.
Yeah, you touched on losing someone. And a few years ago, I lost 3 people within 45 days due to suicide. My cousin, a very dear co-worker, and somebody from high school. And there was no signs whatsoever. So just coming up along people that you know, just say, hey, how you doing? I'm here, you're loved, you're special, I've got you, helps you, but also helps them. So you always gotta tap into people, oftentimes check in. We're human, we love communication. Just make sure you've got them. Let them know that you've got them. And that helps a lot.
It's huge. It's huge. And just to be like, right? How you doing?
It's all part of that.
Can I give you all a resource, another resource?
You can. Can I be me? Can I do my name? You can. We go without the mic.
They don't want me at the mic no more. They tell me to stay with them.
Give us the resource.
So listen, I just want to let you all know that I have a resource. I'm a co-author of a book, Amazon bestseller entitled Speaking My Truth. 49 other women put into that book different circumstances in their lives, from suicide to being, anyway, Speaking My Truth is on Amazon. That's a good resource.
Awesome,
Okay, so
awesome,
the
awesome.
thing is, the book has stories of real life occurrences that you could possibly take value from and how people got it through. One of the things I know with mental health is you feel like it's a only you battle. And it is things only you can do, but you more than likely you're not alone. You're not as alone as you feel like you are. And dude, you matter. You matter. If you're not here, it's a gap. You matter. You know,
So we're gonna read this, the last line, the 5, resilient.
this is it right here. So, yeah, we're gonna wind it up then. All right, so these are some things that actually help people fill the cup. Make time daily just for you. I heard somebody saying journal. I don't know, what else do you make time?
Some of these facilities have like garden centers. You need that fresh air. Just be quiet, listen to the birds, get that sun rays, that's vitamin D, and that helps recharge you. I like sitting out. I'll go to the hospital and I'll find their little garden center and I'll sit there for a little bit, get recharged, and then go see the SPG manager.
You know what's crazy? I heard of something, I haven't read all the way up on it, but I've read enough to know that it's about a thing, it's called grounding. Like people go out into the grass and they take their shoes off. And it has therapeutic qualities or something about you can, so I'm the last one to know. Yeah, I have you, I'm like, what?
Like connect with the world, with reality. It's like
Out into the woods.
And it has physical benefits, like blood pressure and stuff like that goes down.
sometimes it's like we have to think sometimes, I think sometimes that we forget as we become adults and we get in and grappling with our careers, we forget our childhood. Remember when we were kids, I mean, in my generation, we ran out, we played in the dirt, we touched flowers, we grabbed butterflies and stuff like that, and we were connected with the world.
Yeah.
As we become adults, it's like we're inside all the time. We don't go out there and get vitamin D because the ozone can kill you. Everything can kill you in the country, right? It doesn't hurt to go outside and take a nice, deep, fresh air. I mean, we're in a different state. The air here is different. Go outside, take a deep breath. Even if the smell is not very pleasant, take that deep breath and be like, wow. This is like a whole new environment, sitting apart. You know, pluck a flower, be silly and grow out a dandelion. It's stuff like that brings you back into that life and focus. That's how you refill your cup.
Yes, it's fist bump. That's life. Y'all know y'all can clap for that because that's life. Yes. Life is not just work and what I gotta do. There's some things you get to do. Enjoy it. I want to get this bill physical.
Bring time for you daily, build physical hardness.
Yeah. That means work out. Work out. You refill your cup and take
You
it.
can walk, right?
Yeah. Okay. I do walk. I like to walk.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I told you, I'm a jack of all trades master. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutritionist as well. Show it because I lose my part, but building that hardness, it's not about having to go into the gym and sweat for hours. A walk outside, up and down stairs, take the stairs instead of the elevators. Physical activity, I like to rock. That's my physical therapy there. It eases my mind. People look at me like I'm crazy, but that's my physical relief and comfort. You know, moving around instead of sitting, especially if you live working at bedtime, get up and stretch. It's all part of it. Some of the physical hardness.
Physical harshness. This might be a little strange, so when I used to live with my ex-in-laws, we had like a 17,000 square foot building, we did direct mail. We had a punching bag in the back corner and a baseball bat. So you ever got a little upset, you just need to have that release, that physical, we would take the baseball bat to the punching bag. And that just kind of helped, it just broke that.
That's amazing.
Don't they have those rooms, those crash rooms and stuff like that?
Like cabin rooms?
Yeah, you start throwing glass against walls. Yeah, that's physical relief for some people. Like, you gotta get that anger out. Yeah, it's
big business. They have corporate retreat centers, and they just go in there and just like plates and stuff. You just throw it in there. Yeah.
I mean, you have to be careful. Quick disclaimer: we tour, sips, glasses, computers. This is not public crash. Every day.
Alright, so let's go for these five requests. Make time dating just for you. Make time dating. Keyword there is make. If you don't make it, you won't be able to take it. Build physical hardness, write it down, use it, write it down. Increase positive emotions today. I love what you said. Like even if it appears, it's like my body, you breathe in. You breathe in. Some people hate the fact that they're breathing. Let's switch it up. You're breathing. You have an opportunity to do something. 4% more. Everybody ain't her peak performance. And the thing of being a peak performer, being a leader, or being somebody that does a little more than it may seem that others do, is you often end up in the giving side of the providing side, providing counsel, providing help, providing support, providing all these things. But if you refill your cup, you have to make time to refill the afterwards cup. You have to make time to do it yourself. Key word there is make it. You're worth it, and it's a responsibility as well because it allows you to be optimal for what you want to even else.
That's reciprocated, right? You're giving someone else views about receiver and receptor. So a lot of times it's family and friends. You know, your family got you want to refill your cup. You can be empowered to refill someone else's.
But sometimes your job is not going to be. Sometimes it's not going to be that. Like where he works, something that you look out there. He's not going to be himself apart right now. He's on 5, 6, 17 years now. But so, how you get it back? I know it's always going to be getting into it. So that's why you have to make sure you What you have?
And that's considered outside support. Whether to that one, other aspects there, which was writing that down. We are in a technological world where computers, our cell phones, we're so engaged and focused on that we forget the manual part of it. Sometimes writing something down embeds it in our head because of that action. So writing that down, hey, I'm not feeling good today, I'm gonna go take a walk. That triggers your body to say, do it, rather than I'm gonna go on YouTube and watch this comic on here, write it down, get physical. That's part of that physicality. So reconnect to you.
Thank you guys have any further questions? That's about time for us to wind up. Thank you for being a part of our life. I see questions, things like that.
This is fun. This is like what you said. Growing up, getting outside. Then I see my children. What videos of other kids playing outside? We go outside, and my mom had to fight us to come back in the house. I have to fight my children to get out of the house, and then let's make the street. I'm trying to bring sun, because that's what sun. It is heat. You know, so it's so fun. It's I live in a time.